Good morning and welcome to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining me. Today what we're going to be talking about is AutoCAD versus AutoCAD LT. My name is Aldred Boyd. I'm an application engineer for Micrographics, and I hope you guys enjoy the journey today. Okay, so just the agenda for today. So just going to do a quick introduction of what AutoCAD is, a little bit of history as well for those of you who don't know sort of much about AutoCAD. And then just what is AutoCAD and what is AutoCAD LT? So you've probably sort of in the industry, you've gone out to go get some CAD drawing, drafting software, and you've decided, okay, right, I'm going to get into the game. But what do you purchase? What do you need? What are you going to get? When you make this purchase. So we'll talk about that. And then just the difference between AutoCAD and AutoCAD LT. Why would you go for the one over the other? I mean, there is quite a big price, sort of price difference there. So you want to kind of get, the best bang for your buck. And then we're going to just talk about AutoCAD Toolsets. So that's something that's been around for the last couple of years. You might have heard of it, you might not have heard of it. We'll just have a quick discussion about that and what they are. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just have a quick summary and a conclusion on what the discussion or the webinar was all about. Okay. Okay, so the first thing, AutoCAD. So AutoCAD has basically been the industry standard for 2D CAD detailing for the last, many years. I've been in the industry for 20 years now, and it's always been, sort of the super CAD program that we've always used. It's been very useful, very malleable. Can basically do anything you want. And when I say do anything you want, the industries that are used in are architecture, mechanical, electrical, civil, and actually, as I said, anything you can think of. AutoCAD, you can draw anything. I've had, guys from all over the industries sort of asking me, probably one of the most difficult questions I've been asked is, can I use it in the fashion industry? And yes, you can, but it's kind of not the right tool. You can do it, you can make it work, but it's not automated as in some other software that you do get. And then, how did AutoCAD come into existence? It's kind of everyone was sort of drawing on paper with pen and paper. And then what happened was, when computers came in, they started digitizing a lot of the work that we did. So instead of manually creating stuff with our hands, sketches, we were just kind of taking those 2D sketches that we were creating and then putting it, digitizing it, both a 2D and a 3D. And I put 3D in here as well because, to visualize something, for a client, you'd, do like an orthographic or isometric kind of view when you're sketching. So, very artistic type of stuff. In CAD or AutoCAD, you can do this in 3D and actually show more of a visual effect for what you are designing and then essentially going to manufacture. Okay, so AutoCAD was first released in 1982, so that was nearly 40 years ago. So the exact time was, I think, December 1982. So we're still 3 months short of that at the moment. And AutoCAD was one of the first CAD packages to run on a PC. So before that, most CAD packages ran on like sort of mainframe computers. So these huge computers that would fill up the entire room for you. And sort of, it was nice for that because the personal computer was coming out. Sort of Bill Gates and all those guys, Steve Jobs. They were kind of bringing out this technology that everyone in the household could use. It wasn't just meant for corporations. And sort of a kind of something that would happen back in the day is, you would decide, sort of, could you buy a CAD package? But it was quite expensive because it wasn't really the CAD package that was expensive; it was the mainframe computer that came that was quite expensive. So when the PC came out and they started developing this CAD package for a PC, then things really started to move. AutoCAD initially only had 2D capabilities, okay, so it was quite limited, and also you kind of had a digitizer as well. I think it was a like big pad, had a space in the middle there. You take your sort of your stylus, and you kind of click on what command you wanted, and then start drawing, and you'll see the drawing pop up on your screen. Okay, 3D was added shortly afterwards, and then from that, as well, they started putting in, programming capabilities on the API. So, even though you got this AutoCAD out the box, if you had a whole lot of automation, sort of automated processes that you wanted to do, you could still then program on top of AutoCAD and kind of make it your own, or make it easier to work in the industry that you are working in. AutoCAD LT, that was released a little bit after AutoCAD. So AutoCAD LT was released in 1993, and it had, traditionally less functionality than AutoCAD. Now, I went through and I tried to find out exactly what AutoCAD LT stands for, and I found a little thread on the Autodesk discussion group. And the things that came out were, the following. So laptop, LT stands for laptop, or learning and training, or lesser technology, low tech, laborious and temperamental. I thought it was quite funny. And also, just another thing, just nothing. It was just a designation. So, some of the guys from Autodesk kind of jumped in. Well, it was just a designation to say the difference between AutoCAD and AutoCAD LT. In the industry, there's a big perception that it stands for light. Okay, so LT is AutoCAD Light, and a lot of people, do say that it's, it's AutoCAD Light. I believe that it's limited technology, which kind of makes sense. It is limited in what it can do, but make no mistake, AutoCAD LT is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to 2D drafting and detailing. I think sort of about 10 years ago, if you had to come to me and say, listen, right, AutoCAD versus AutoCAD LT, I'm going to be doing, 8-10 hours of drafting a day, I would have definitely said AutoCAD. But, my perception of that has definitely changed. And you'll see some of the reasons why, as I go through here. But, I would, if I'm doing 8 to 10 hours of drafting and it's just 2D, AutoCAD LT kind of would be the thing. Okay, so let's now start taking a look at some of the differences between AutoCAD and AutoCAD LT. So, the first thing that jumps out probably would be your 3D capability. So if you go to anyone and you say, listen, right, what is the difference between AutoCAD and AutoCAD LT? AutoCAD can do 3D. Okay, what AutoCAD can do as well, spoke about this a little bit earlier, is it's got an API which you can then program onto. And if you know things like AutoLisp, VisualLisp, VBA, .NET to ObjectArcs, you can program onto AutoCAD and start creating your own little scripts, etc. And unfortunately, AutoCAD LT does not have that. So, it's basically what you see is what you get. Also, you can't do any 3D drawings on this for presentation purposes and maybe even rendering. Okay. Sorry, there we go. And then, okay, so when it comes to the 2D drawing, you can see there that they're both pretty good. They both run on the same engine. You've got your model space where you do all your drawings 1:1. You've got your paper space when you start doing annotations, sort of text and dimensions. And those, as I said, annotations, dimensions, text, multi-leaders, tables, and batch plotting as well. So kind of the whole package. So, you want to kind of get a drawing out. Client comes to you and says, listen, right, I need this design. So you'll take your AutoCAD or your AutoCAD LT. You don't need 3D because you don't need any presentation purpose or anything like that. Draw it up, quick, simple, dimension, label, and plot. Okay, so that's AutoCAD, AutoCAD LT, same functionality. Okay, now when it comes to the 3D, sort of AutoCAD and not AutoCAD LT can do this. So AutoCAD will be able to do your 3D for you. And with this, some of the functionality that will come out of here is that you've got automated views. So if you think about in a 2D, if you're working just in 2D, if you have to draw up elevations or sections, you'll draw up your plan view. Say it's a house you're building. Draw up your plan view, draw your section view, draw your elevation. Now that section view, you've got to kind of think exactly how is going to look. So you've got to kind of visualize it in your mind and then draw it up. Now, if that section view needs to move, you've got to go re-visualize it and then go and draw it up. And I mean, kudos to guys who can do this. I mean, it's a great skill to have, to be able to visualize something in 3D in your head and put onto 2D and on paper. When drawing in 3D in AutoCAD, what happens is you draw everything up, that's in 3D, and then you just have to move that section line to get the different section views. So that's actually quite a nice little feature that you've got over here. As I said, AutoCAD LT can't do that because it's just working in 2D. Automated views, front view, side view, top view, isometric view. For me to create these 4 different views here, I said, right, great, grab my 3D view from my model space, and I'm putting this onto my paper space. Front view, top view, side view, isometric view, create. There we go. If I go back to my model space and I change anything on my 3D, all these views will automatically update as well because they are linked to that 3D model. Yeah. AutoCAD LT, like I said, you can't do this manual views. If I want to do that isometric view, I have got a functionality called IsoDraft. But once again, if things change, it's a very manual process and stuff. And when it comes to something like this in your 3D and creating these views, it is much quicker. So you're going to save a lot more time working in AutoCAD versus AutoCAD LT. Okay. Then just coming back to the API. So what Autodesk has also created is the Autodesk App Store. So like your iPhone or your Android phone, you've got your App Store, and Autodesk has one as well. And you'll see there that if you go here, you can sort of filter out what you want. So they've got different apps for AutoCAD, Inventor, Revit, 3ds Max, and what you'll see on the left hand side, this is the App Store. So when you go to it, you'll see in the top left hand corner here, I've just scrolled, I've filtered out to AutoCAD, and then you've got different sort of analysis, simulation, blocks, building design, building MEP, and then on the right hand side of here you'll have featured apps. Some of them are free, as you can see on the two over here, or the middle one, Speckle. Some are on a trial version, and once the trial version runs out, then you'll have to pay for it, and then some are just paid for. So you can see the one on the right is $29.99 per year. Then on the right hand side over here, on the bottom picture over here, this is actually this is just sort of more, these are apps that are created from Autodesk. So Autodesk has also put up some productivity tools specific to a certain software package. So you can see a SketchUp import. So this doesn't come standard with AutoCAD when you install, but if you have created or if someone else has created something in SketchUp, you can then go and download this little app, and then you're now able to import SketchUp models into your AutoCAD. And then there is also a view. So if you go inside AutoCAD, you'll see there's a featured app tab, and you'll see there I've got these apps that I can use. Click on it, it takes you to the website, download it, install it, and then start using it. Another thing that you get in AutoCAD that you do not get in AutoCAD LT is something called parametric constraints. Now, traditionally, how you work in AutoCAD is you kind of draw up what you want. So, if a line has to go horizontal or parallel to your x-axis, you draw it as parallel to the x-axis at, say, for instance, 5,000 millimeters or 2,500. If it has to go up at an angle of 45 degrees, you'll say, right, 45 degrees, at 1,000, and you'll keep on drawing like this, inputting values and inputting angles as you go, and there's the end result. Now, if you select any of that geometry and you move it, it'll either break apart if it's not a polyline, so the two lines joined together will break apart. And if it is a polyline, both lines will move, but the geometry changes, the length changes, it stretches, the angle changes as well. What constraints allows us to do is kind of lock in real world attributes or real world things that will help us define something. So take a rectangle, for instance. If I've got a rectangle and I draw it maybe with the rectangle command in AutoCAD, if I grab any of those corners and I pull, that 90-degree changes and it's not a rectangle anymore. So with parametric constraints, what you can do, you've got something called the perpendicular constraint. So you'll say draw a rectangle, make all the lines perpendicular to each other, which are the ones adjoining anyway, and then what happens when you pull that line, it's not going to distort the angles, so it'll always be a rectangle. And you can do that both with geometric constraints, so things like parallel, horizontal, tangent, equal as well, and then as well as dimensional constraints. So we spoke about maybe drawing a line at 45 degrees, but if you grab the end of that point or that line and you move it, that 45 degrees is going to change. So what you can do is you can say, well, right, this line must always be 45 degrees, and it'll always stay like that because that dimensional constraint is controlling the geometry. So that's quite a nice thing. This can get quite tricky. So if you are going to be using sort of your parametric constraints, I would just think about it very carefully on what you want the end result to be. So if you pull in a line, what must it do? With your dimensional constraints, you can also have relationships between two lines. So if I've got a rectangle, the length must be X, and the height must be X divided by 2. Then what I'm doing is I'm just changing that X value, and then the height will always change according to what that X value is. But once again, this needs a lot of planning. So, if you are going to be using parametric constraints, either geometric or dimensional, please, think about it. Think about what the end result is going to be, and then you can start your way. Okay, AutoCAD LT. Okay, so this is the menu on AutoCAD LT, and you can see there that you can delete constraints, you can edit constraints. Okay, so like values, but you can't create them. Okay, just when you are using this, be careful of deleting constraints, because it might be very integral to the design. And once you've deleted that, you as an LT user can't go and add it again. So just be very careful. Have a good workflow set in place in the office, so that when you are using these, and you've got a full AutoCAD user, and an AutoCAD LT user, that there are checks and balances in place, so that you aren't deleting imperative parameters over here. Now, this is probably my favorite one for AutoCAD. So, if you were ever looking at AutoCAD LT and AutoCAD, and there is quite a big price difference, and you adamant that you only need a 2D, but you wanted to create something like bill of materials or schedule, I would say go for the AutoCAD. The reason for this is got something called data extraction. So data extraction works by doing things like block counts, or dragging information out of a block, or even setting somewhere in this, out of a block somewhere, from an attribute. So if I create a block, and then I start populating with attributes, I block everything. So I block the geometry, and I block the attribute inside the geometry. And what happens is it kind of like saves it as metadata inside there. So when I bring my block in, say for example I've got 10 chairs that I bring in, and the material, which is an attribute, is wood. It'll tell me that there are 10 chairs there, and the material is wood or steel, or whatever it is you want. So you're able to kind of drag that information out by using the data extraction, and the output from that data extraction would either be a table, as you can see over here, on your AutoCAD drawing, or you can actually export it out as an Excel spreadsheet, text document, CSV, or I think a database, MDB database as well. Okay, so you are able to kind of take that out, and the wonderful thing about this is that you're not manually counting things. Think about it. If you're an architect and you have to do a door count or window count, what do? You open up your drawing, or you go and you print it out, and you start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 20, 40, 60. Hey Aldred, lunchtime. Or hey Aldred, have you checked this drawing? 39, 40. Oh, I've lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so with the data extraction, it gives it a count. You can see it. If you delete any of the blocks, it allows you to update it. You add any blocks, it allows you to update it, and you've got your correct count again. So no manual counting, and you're also eliminating human error. Okay, so just a little bit of recap in there. So basically it does a block count in the drawing. You can extract information residing in your attribute. It'll display the block and attribute information in the table on your DWG, and then it also exports your block and attribute information in Excel, in text, for further processing. And I mean, that can now go to procurement. They want to go and see sort of how many of a part we're going to need in your bill of materials, how many doors do I need to order. They can go get an exact count, exact price, and you can carry on working. Okay. Another thing that AutoCAD has that AutoCAD LT does not have is the CAD standards. Now, how CAD standards works is, maybe internally you've got your checks and balances on what lines look like, the line thicknesses, the line weights, text styles, layers, colors, etc. You kind of want to know that every single drawing that's going out of your office looks the same. It looks like your brand. It's kind of you putting yourself on a, sort of on a piece of paper, and you expressing yourself to your clients and to the world. I've seen a lot of guys who, they've spent a lot of time working on their standards, working on, the line thicknesses, spacing between dashed lines, dashed dotted lines, the boldness of a line between existing and new walls, for instance, that you're doing. And you can take a look at their drawings, and you can immediately tell that, okay, this drawing comes from company X. So this helps you to just kind of check what's going on with the drawing before it goes out to clients. So if you're the manager, in the office, the CAD Office Manager, you can actually run it's called a DWS file. You've probably seen it if you go File, Save As, and if you just go to the DWG drop down, you'll see there in the middle is a DWT and a DWS. DWS is the standards file, and you can attach a standards file to your DWT template file, and it will check and give errors and warnings when you start deviating from your standards. Okay, so it's a nice check, for when you are creating and sending out drawings like this over here. In AutoCAD LT, if you had to do this, it's literally a manual thing. So, if I had to go check that all the colors in the layers were correct, you have to go open up your layer manager and you have to go physically go through every single one. I mean, if you look at a color, maybe it's green, maybe there's a slight variation of green. You'd actually have to go click on the color of the color swab and then go see that the RGB number is correct. So AutoCAD will do that automatically, whereas AutoCAD LT you have to go physically check every single thing: your dimension styles, your layers, your line types, your multi-detail styles, and your text styles. Now, this is also quite a nice little addition to AutoCAD versus AutoCAD LT is Express Tools. Now, the Express Tools has been around forever and ever, and it's kind of gone. I don't think it's changed actually much, but I mean, it's a fantastic set of tools. If you are, sort of working in AutoCAD, and you've got to kind of do, little automated tasks, like, sort of aligning an arc, aligning text to an arc, converting single line text to multi-line text, because example, you've got, someone sends you a drawing and they've got a whole lot, you've used a whole lot of single text. Maybe they've converted it from a PDF. And you want to kind of make it into multi-line text. It's more easily manageable. You can modify it better. You can format it much easier, like as in Word. So you want to convert that to multi-line text. So, you've got a very, very quick, sort of tool to do that under your Express Tools. Replacing blocks. You've got a block that looked a certain way 5 years ago or 2 years ago or a week ago, and you've got 1,000 of them in the drawing. So you want to replace all those blocks with a totally different block with a totally different name. So we've got here in our Express Tools that. So just running through the list over here, the things that you can do with Express Tools: you can change blocks, text, modifications. So move, copy, rotate. All in one command. So it's not move, you do it. Copy, you do that command. Rotate, you do that command. It's all laid in one command, and you just use your shortcut keys to swap between what you're doing. Layouts, align space, merge layouts, synchronize viewports. Okay, so you've got all these different tools that help you just make your job that little bit quicker. And as in AutoCAD, when you work in it, the less clicks you can do, the quicker you are. The cheaper you can get the job out, because you got to pay the CAD guys. Okay, so that was just a look at the major differences between AutoCAD and AutoCAD LT. So you see, there aren't many, but just from I think the data extraction, that for me is probably the biggest thing that actually warrants going the full AutoCAD instead of AutoCAD LT, because of that count. Be able to count and actually put a bill of materials or a schedule onto your drawing and be able to get an exact count. I think that's a very, very valuable tool. Yes, you can create attributes, which is part of the data extraction. That's what the data extracts in AutoCAD LT, but essentially you can't get that count right at the end. Now, let's take a look a bit further into the AutoCAD with a specialized tool set. So this is something that's come out. It's always been around, the tool sets. But it was as single products. And what Autodesk did a couple of years ago is they decided that they're going to bundle everything together. And that bundling is quite nice, because if you want to say, for instance, AutoCAD Electrical, AutoCAD Architecture, and AutoCAD, you kind of have to pay for it separately, which wasn't really cool. Actually, no, it wasn't separately. I think if you got AutoCAD Architecture, you would... it runs on AutoCAD, so sorry, my apologies about that. But if you wanted to get Mechanical, then you'd have to buy that separate. You wanted to get Map, you have to buy that separately. So I think it's quite a nice, it's a great idea that they had. They just bundled everything together. Okay, and with these, you got a whole plethora of tool sets, and the first one we're going to talk about is just the AutoCAD architecture. Now, AutoCAD architecture is automating being able to sort of do buildings, through AutoCAD, and it's in 3D as well. So, instead of drawing, if you would still draw in 2D in a floor plan, but what happens is you set up that line that you're drawing to be a wall. And that wall would have properties like maybe it's 270 mil thick and it's got a 50 mil, 60 mil air gap in the middle. And you'd be able to draw this as it goes along. You decide to put a door in. What would you do in normal AutoCAD 2D? You'll grab your door block, the top view, you put it in, you'd have to go and then trim the line where the door's going to sit, and there we go. Now, if you want to take a look at the elevation, you'd have to go and draw that separately. With AutoCAD architecture, you're drawing in 2D, your plan view, you draw your lines. It's got the correct thickness. It's also got a height that you've specified. And then when you want to bring in doors and windows, it knows it has to cut the wall out, because that when you insert a door into a wall, it first needs to sit on the level, as well as got to cut out that wall. And if you move that door left and right, it's going to move the cut as well. Same thing for windows. And then, when you're creating your ceilings, your floors, your roofs, staircases, it's all got that inside this tool set. So it's all been sort of programmed into it so that you can go and create a house or a building as quickly as possible. AutoCAD MEP. Okay, so with AutoCAD MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, so you can put your ducting in, sort of lobster backs, reducers. You can control the flow, electrical, your lighting systems, the load that's coming in your lighting systems, your plumbing, hot, cold water systems. Okay, so, and it's all in 3D once again. So this is great. It's adding on to that, AutoCAD, you have AutoCAD 3D. Now, really up my game, enhance all these tools that AutoCAD has given me with my MEP over here. AutoCAD Mechanical. Okay, so now this is going back to 2D, so it's not a 3D platform, but, it kind of gives you advanced 2D capabilities. It's got a fantastic library of nuts and bolts. The hidden line display that you use, it's intelligent. So for instance, if I've got a block and I've got another component that's behind it, as you're moving the component behind the block, as it goes behind the block, it will actually show hidden detail. You move it away from the block, it'll show normal line detail. So it's intelligent enough to know that if I'm looking at a sort of an assembly and the components that are stacked behind each other, yes, in 2D, but essentially in 3D, it will then show the correct line type. Whereas in AutoCAD, you'd have normal AutoCAD, AutoCAD LT, or normal AutoCAD, you'd have to go and create some splits. The line that's been split, select that, put onto a different hidden line type or something like that. So that's a great little tool. It also automates things like your layer creation, so it knows what objects to put on what layers. And then it also will give you a bill of materials, which is fantastic. That is probably one of the things that takes the longest to do, is your bill of materials. You got to do a count, create your bill of materials, and yeah. So that's a great little tool to have. AutoCAD Electrical. This is a great way to AutoCAD Electrical drawings. Normally what guys do is they'll put all their different title blocks on one DWG, say 16, 20, 25, 30, and they'll start drawing the electrical schematic, one line diagrams, and when you fill up the page, they'll go to the next page, the next page, the next page. Now what AutoCAD Electrical does, it will control line types like from, to, destination, source. So you don't ever have to remember, okay, this wire needs to go to drawing 6 or 5. Where does it come out? Is it column? Is it a grid identification of where it comes out? AutoCAD Electrical will control that for you. What it also does have, it's got a monstrous library of components. So switches, contacts, relays, pilot lights, you name it, it's got it. And if it's not in the library, then you can go and just very, very quickly convert it into one of your own parts or drawings or blocks into an AutoCAD Electrical library as well. Okay. And one of the great things about this is that it can create a bill of materials, missing bill of materials, component wireless, from, to. So, and PLC creation. You create PLCs, DIN rails, you can create your panel layouts, and you can tag it, and you can automatic wire numbering. Oh, that's absolutely great. Automatic wire numbering, just runs the whole project. You don't have to worry about it. So if you guys are doing AutoCAD electrical drawings, get into this. It's a great package. AutoCAD Map 3D. So you've got you do GIS, sort of creation. What you can do is go take your surveys, come through. You got AutoCAD Map 3D. You're working with maps. You're working with north arrows. It will go and automatically automate a lot of the processes you have with creating this. I think if you've got a drawing and you've done it in 2D model space, you bring it onto your viewport, and now you need to just reorientate your viewport so that you can see the whole drawing on your layout, but your north arrow also needs to change, and you've got to make sure it changes at the correct angle. And I know that you've got a northing arrow over here that will actually change as you rotate your viewport, so it is locked to that viewport, so you never have people know where north is. AutoCAD Raster design. Do you have a lot of CAD drawings that were drawn by hand sitting in a dusty cupboard somewhere? Okay, you need to digitize it because it's going to get eaten by moths or sort of mold or whatever it is. Raster design is probably the answer for you. So with this, what you can do is you can basically vectorize any raster drawing. It needs to be bitonal. So you kind of scan the drawing in, and then essentially what you're going to do is you're going to get a whole lot of dust marks in it. I mean, that's just fact. It's going to happen. You can't get away from it. So they've got this awesome thing called despeckle. What it does, it takes a look at all the little dust parts, it'll come out in little pixels. You say anything smaller than 5 pixels, delete, boom, done. Despeckle the whole thing. So now you've just got your lines. What it'll also do is it'll automatically kind of recognize text. Not 100%, but 90 to 95%, and that's all you need. When it comes to automation, all you really need is, I would say 50, 60% upwards. If you can get half your job done and automate it, it makes it a lot less tedious, gets the job out quicker. If I've got a job and it normally takes me 100 hours, and I can even automate 50% of that, which is 50 hours, that's already a job well spent, an automation process well spent. Okay, that's always what I think. Okay. So it'll bring in all those images. It will, sort of create polylines out of lines. It'll create multi-line text out of text. As I said, not all the text comes up perfectly. You're gonna have to just check spelling and stuff like that. But I mean, at least it gets the job going, and you don't spend all that time tediously looking at the drawing and actually recreating it from scratch. Okay, so basically in summary, so we've got AutoCAD LT. Okay, so very, very powerful 2D capable CAD package. Okay, it's been the standard for, as I said, like 40 years, and it's a great, great package, if you're using it. AutoCAD will up the game, giving you 3D capabilities as well as API access for more flexibility and automation. And if you really want to take it to the next level, industry-specific tool sets. Okay, so I mean, AutoCAD Electrical. I've been to guys and I've seen they've actually created their own kind of electrical tool set, or the way that they draw is exactly the way that AutoCAD Electrical draws, or creates that drawing of yours. And I mean, why not just, if you're going to get full AutoCAD, you've got AutoCAD Electrical, use it. So it's got some great productivity enhancements. Okay, so in conclusion, which one should I get, AutoCAD or AutoCAD LT? Always get asked that. Basically, you ask yourself, what do you need? What do I actually need to get out of the drawing? Do I need to do 2D? Do I need to do 3D? Am I creating these electrical diagrams? Am I creating, buildings? Do I need map? Do I need raster design? You've got to take all of these into consideration, and then you can see what you want. But I mean, purely 2D, AutoCAD LT, no brainer. Very, very capable. As I said, about 10 years ago, if you had asked me between AutoCAD and AutoCAD LT, if I'm doing 10 hours of drafting a day, I would have said AutoCAD, but they really have upped their game with AutoCAD LT, and I would say, you know what, AutoCAD LT for that is absolutely perfect. You need any 3D for visualization, rendering. Sorry, that's something else that AutoCAD has got as well. It's the rendering part of it, so you can create materials, real life materials, and get like a visualization out of it. Or if you need industry enhancements, AutoCAD Electrical. Yes, it's 2D, but it's got this enhancement over there which controls your electrical line schematic a lot better than it would if you're manually drawing it up and sort of giving it out to the client. I would just say then AutoCAD with AutoCAD Toolsets. Great, thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed this webinar, and yeah, please take a look at our YouTube channel for any more webinars that we've done. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.